India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Washington today for talks with U.S. President Trump. Modi is the fourth world leader to meet with Trump since Trump's second term began just a few weeks ago. The two are expected to discuss some tough topics, including migration and tariffs. Modi enjoyed a good relationship with Trump during the first Trump administration, but there's been growing anger in Delhi over controversial U.S. deportation flights, as well as Trump's threats of slapping retaliatory tariffs on Indian imports. A lot to talk about there. Let's cross over now to our correspondent, Janelle Dumalaon. She is in Washington following these talks. So what can we expect from this meeting, Janelle?
Brent, Modi and Trump are expected to discuss a range of topics from energy, infrastructure, trade, immigration, defense. But really, a lot of special attention will be paid to what the two leaders say about trade. So in the last weeks, Trump has been talking a lot about reciprocal tariffs. So this idea that the U.S. will match in equal measure the tariffs that are coming in from other countries. And in the run-up to his election, he also called India a big trade abuser. So those are his words. And it's worth noting that India, for its part, has been trying to find ways to get favor from the Trump administration when it comes to the trade front. For example, in last week, it slashed import duties on motorbikes, and this is thought to benefit U.S.-made Harley Davidsons going into the country. Now, senior White House officials say that moves like these are well received but modest, and that indicates to us that the White House might be looking for more before it gets what it considers a fair trading relationship with India.
Janelle, last week, more than 100 Indian migrants were deported on a U.S. military plane. They were sent back to India, reportedly in handcuffs and ankle chains. The optics there, disturbing for some. How significant will this be for these two leaders?
You know, it's unclear, Brent. It was curiously missing from a briefing that White House officials gave to reporters previewing the meeting between Modi and Trump. But it is fair to say that this is something that is definitely hanging over Modi's head. It is a source of awkwardness for him going into the meeting with Trump. Now, it's important to note that India and Washington, Delhi and Washington, they were in talks about this. They were aware that these deportation flights were going to happen. But really, it was the handcuffs and the shackles and the public humiliation that caused national outrage in India. And as such, Modi is under pressure to bring it up. But he hasn't really done so. And we've only really heard from the Ministry of External Affairs. They said that they've been told that handcuffs and shackles are a standard part of deportation procedures, and that might tell us a little bit about how much appetite there really is on Modi's side to bring this up with Trump. However, he might decide that it's well worth sending a signal of strength to Trump and to his critics at home.
All right, Janelle, stand by. We want to take a look now at what is known as the H-1B visa. It is widely used by Indian IT professionals, and it allows U.S. companies to hire foreign workers for specialized roles requiring technical or theoretical expertise. And while it powers innovation at companies such as Tesla and SpaceX, some argue it exploits labor, displaces American workers, and undermines fair hiring practices. We spoke to a former tech worker and other experts about it.
More than 70% of the temporary H-1B visas for skilled foreign workers in the U.S. go to Indian nationals. And they are the ones that stand to be most affected as a wider debate on the future of skilled labor rages on, with some Trump allies wanting more restricted immigration, while Trump himself has flip-flopped from opposition to support of the H-1B visa program. But the program itself has been the target of harsh criticism. Many who study labor issues, like Ron Hira, argue that the H-1B visa is misused.
They don't control their own work permit and their ability to stay in the U.S. It's dependent on their employer. What that does is it gives the employer a lot of power over that worker.
This employer says he no longer hires H-1B visa holders. Vivek Vadva, a CEO of a Silicon Valley life science company, also says the system is flawed.
If you're now running a big technology company, you rather have more stable employees who can't leave who get lower salaries than have people who are going to just jump ship like the rest of the employees do.
Silicon Valley thrives on global talent, but also has a dark secret. Here, for many hiring H-1B visa workers, it's not about skills, it's about money and control. AS, who asked that we not use his full name, is a firmware engineer at a Silicon Valley startup. He asked us to conceal his identity out of concern that publicly commenting on immigration issues may affect him and his ability to work in the United States.
Could there be new policies saying, okay, now H-1B will be really hard to get, or people on H-1B from past 6 years can no longer work here? Could these policies come from Trump? That will be really scary.
It is this kind of uncertainty that AS is trying to manage. He's eligible for a green card, but the backlog for processing applications is in the millions, with the waiting time counted in decades.
Like this is actually very demeaning. If you check your on status to get green card, it shows 108 years.
Despite his worries, AS says he hopes he can stay in the US and contribute to its culture of innovation, as long as the system lets him.
Well, Garima Mohan is an India analyst at the German Marshall Fund, a global policy think tank. She joins us today from Brussels. Thanks for being with us. Garima, Trump and Modi cultivated friendly relations during Trump's first term. Are things likely to be as smooth this time around?
Well, India certainly hopes so. It is very unusual for Prime Minister Modi to visit the US so early on in the administration. But I think a key goal of Prime Minister Modi is to ensure that the highs and the good relationship he cultivated with President Trump in the first term continues, and he can demonstrate the value of India as a partner to the United States.
How much do the two countries, the United States and India, big countries, how much do they need each other in economic terms?
Well, in economic terms, not just in economic terms, but also overall, the United States is arguably the most important strategic partner for India. And India has played a crucial role in the US strategy of competition with China. So if we've seen the relationship go on a very sort of high, good trajectory for the last many years, but definitely under Trump 1, under the Biden administration, we saw it develop really well. And the hope is for India that this trajectory would continue. Of course, trade and tariffs are an important topic. We know that for this particular US administration, so India is ready for a trade deal. We can expect an announcement on that front. India has preemptively lowered tariffs as well. And I think we can also expect some deals from India, for example, purchase of US oil and gas, defense equipment, increasing Indian investments in the US.
So that's the economic picture. What about migration? Many highly qualified Indian workers come to the U.S. thanks to a special visa program, the so-called H-1B visa scheme. Do you think those skill flows will continue given the anti-immigration thrust of the new Trump administration?
That is still a little bit up in the air. We saw a crackdown on H-1B visas under Trump 1, but we've seen conflicting signals this time, particularly from Elon Musk, who has defended these visas as important for bringing in talent to the United States. India certainly hopes that legal pathways of immigration will be preserved, even though there is a crackdown on the illegal ones.
Now, some 700,000 undocumented citizens of India are estimated to be in the U.S. Trump is putting great effort into deporting undocumented migrants, including those from India. How is Modi responding to that?
I think India was prepared for this to happen and for repatriation flights to be instituted. The number of illegal immigrants from India has increased even on the southern border of the United States. So that was something that was expected. However, there have been many tensions around the treatment of these immigrants who were shackled on the plane, etc. So I think these will be one of the issues that need to be managed in the relationship, certainly a difficult one.
We have an idea of what Trump wants from Modi, but talk to us more about what Modi wants from this meeting with Trump.
As I mentioned before, United States is the most important strategic partner that India has today. So I think for Prime Minister Modi, a key priority is to ensure that this relationship stays growing and it stays important. That when we look at China, the administration stays engaged in the Indo-Pacific because, as we know, the India-China border shares tensions. India has a sort of relationship with China that is difficult at the moment, and the US has been a key player. And I think the third important thing is for India to continue the partnership on security, defense, technology, particularly formats like the Quad that also include Japan and Australia, which have become key instruments of Indian foreign policy. So as India becomes more and more integrated with Western partners, particularly the US, I think it is key for the country to ensure that this administration remains as invested in India as the previous ones.
Garima, thank you very much. That was Garima Mohan from the German Marshall Fund.